Thanks for listening to this episode of Mystical Sisterhood. To learn more about my one-on-one coaching programs or join the Mystical Sisterhood membership, visit MaureenSpielman.com or MysticalSisterhood.com. Thanks so much. I'll see you in the next episode. Welcome back to Mystical Sisterhood. This is your host, Maureen Spielman, and today I come to you with a solo episode about wake-up calls. So I wanted to talk about how we think about them, what they can mean for your life, and this idea or question that do we need to wait for them to practice connection to ourselves in alignment with our soul's journey? Or do we take ownership of our experience today and treat every day as a wake-up call? So a traditional literal meaning, which I think is sort of funny and nostalgic, of a wake-up call is when we're in a hotel or a motel. And we would tell the front desk, I need a wake-up call. And you would get, if you remember, maybe you were on a trip and you needed to hit the road early. And you'd say, I need the wake-up call at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. I remember it more from my parents and that generation of growing up than I do my own experience, although it was part of mine too. But now we use cell phones, right? So what is that wake-up call? It's coming from somewhere else. It's coming from the outside. And we'll talk about that, like how wake-up calls are from the universe when we think of them in the non-literal sense of something that is here for us, more for our awakening, perhaps on a spiritual level. So the way that in kind of common kind of language we think about wake-up calls is that it's something jarring or shocking that happens to you in your life in order to spiritually wake you up or lead you to changes in your life. I think that most people would agree about the concept, even if you don't feel like you've experienced a wake-up call in your own life, something big that's happened. But if I kind of think about people in my own life, I know so many people who have this big cosmic 2x4, as sometimes they refer to it, as the awakener. And also when big things happen in our lives that we, the eye of the beholder, get to say what they mean to us and derive our own lessons from them. So I was thinking like the eye of the beholder or the recipient that's getting the call, they get to say what it means. And it might just mean it's something that they need to get through because it's so hard to get through. An insight about that event might not come till later, or it might unfold over time. Because I think when wake-up calls come, and we're going to talk about what they can come in the form of, they are very difficult to get through and require a lot of our resources, like all hands on deck, to kind of meet that awakener in our lives. So wake-up calls can come in the form of a diagnosis, death of someone close to you, death of a parent, loss of a job, someone leaving you, a breakup or a divorce. It's basically, when I think about these kind of different things that happen to us, it's the loss of something very precious to you, something that you knew to be true as your reality, that something on the outside occurs that rocks your world. And so when these come in my life, they feel bigger than me, bigger than what I know what to do or have learned to do up to that moment. And here's one thing about them. In the moments, you might also have intuition about what needs to change in your life. And you may have that realization right away with a wake-up call that you've experienced, but that might not change that quickly. So I always think that, you know, even if we do have these awakeners and the wake-ups and these things that are calling us to attend to ourselves on perhaps a new and deeper level, things that are here for our growth and transformation, it's always with a very compassionate hand that we're holding with ourselves. And so if you have something on the outside and you know, like, oh my gosh, this needs to change in my life, that might not occur in short order. And that's okay, because it's here to alert you to something so you can tend to your needs more deeply. Thoughts might come to you, feelings definitely will. And I believe that it's about sitting back and becoming curious about how you respond that allows you to see possibly more clearly what is happening for you. And in the moment, it absolutely feels like it's happening to you, because when they come in the form of a wake up call, they can absolutely slay you, knock you down, knock you out cold, and they can humble you beyond belief. I always used to think of when I was healing from my medical journey, and I went back to exercise, like even the exercise alone that I had been strong enough for in the past, I would always have this image of like it broke me down, like I was on my knees. And that's kind of when a wake up call comes, that's what it feels like so often. How do you feel about that? What have you felt in your life when these times have come? A lot of people, I think, feel like totally just they go back to ground zero. They begin again. It's something that calls to us to begin again. Because everything that you knew, whether if it's for your health or a relationship, and the loss of someone dear to you, everything that you knew in that form falls away. So you might not realize it in the moment, but it becomes an invitation to recreate some aspect of your life experience. It's often said that people awaken because of that major life event, or they awaken on their own terms. So my teacher, Dr. Shafali, always used to talk about that in conscious parenting, like that when we awaken to new truths about ourselves, they can come in the form of something really big, and that aha, and like, oh my gosh, like my world did fall apart in order to learn these lessons. But for some, and maybe more than ever, I'm not sure, people are just awakening on their own terms, like just starting to go inward. There's so much information out there now asking us deeper questions about ourselves than we've ever been asked. And it's such a beautiful thing. So that right there can lead to sort of a cracking open or a breaking open, to wake up to a new reality and new revelations about our lives. Because if we're all here to sort of live this fully expressed, engaged, aligned life, what are the things in our outside world that are coming to us to open up those possibilities? I was thinking as I was writing this episode of the famous Rumi poem called "Don't Go Back to Sleep." I'm sure so many of you heard it, but I'm gonna just read it because it's short and it's sweet and it's to the point. And it says, "The breeze at dawn has secrets to tell you. Don't go back to sleep. You must ask for what you really want. Don't go back to sleep. People are going back and forth across the door sill where the two worlds touch. The door is round and open. Don't go back to sleep." I love that. I'm often reminded of the don't go back to sleep. I think that oftentimes in our lives, I want to talk about the whispers that we get, but we get the whispers and we go back to sleep because it's comfortable. It's so understandable that we'd go back to sleep because we don't know what we don't know on the other side. And so we would rather stay in the comfort, or we think we would, than venture out into that the unknown on the other side. So I wanted to say before I talked about universal whispers that I see it happening before my eyes, and I'm wondering if you are too. I'm thinking about women's awakening and taking the invitation to not go back to sleep for what is true and right for their lives. I recently put a shout out on my Mystical Sisterhood Facebook page. And if you're not a part of that, please seek it and request and join it. We have fun in there. But I said I was looking for women to talk to me about their experiences at midlife. And I was really doing it largely to inform me about podcast topics and what women are going on. But what I realized, and I think it's part of my reason for being in doing the podcast, is that I love, 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 love the conversations. I just love the conversations. That's part of my life's purpose and mission, to sit with people and hear their life stories. But I also was in awe, and I'll just say blown away by the conversations I've had so far, because women are awakening in so many ways. Um, these the sharings of recounting something big happening in their outer life that is allowing them to rethink where they find themselves, how they spend the time, who they want to hang out with, new careers, what they want to create, new conversations they want to have, new boundaries, you name it, it's happening. I have to believe that it's happening for men too. I'm in conversation with fewer men, so I don't have the pulse on that, but I believe it. And I believe it's happening for all of us. The wake ups and the whispers that don't have to come in something big. And I think it's happening for the kids too. And so the invitation for them to be in the conversation with us, like, let's not wait. Let's not wait. So in the context of these bigger wake up calls, um, and even in smaller ones that might come through, is there an opportunity to create an aligned life now? All right. This may not be true for everybody, but I think it might be that we all have places in our lives where we're more in alignment than others. So maybe you have this amazing career, but struggle with your partner. Perhaps you have a great relationship with your intimate inner circle, but you have a not so great relationship relating to your body and struggling with self-image and being enough with your body. So it can look a lot of different ways, or where most of our areas are aligned, but there's that one thing. And so I bring that up because the things that come into our lives are here to help us grow and transform and become more aligned. So if we have that place in our life that feels out of reach, that feels like it will never be solved, or you'll never figure it out, or it plagues you, or there's no way out, that's far from the truth. And there's invitations to look deeper in it. So I was thinking, like, can we agree that it's sort of universal that we might have some parts of our lives, but then others that aren't as aligned? And if not, then it falls on me. It's just me. But I'm hoping that that resonates in some way. So while we might not first know why something is happening, even if it's like consistently happening in our outer world, it might be calling us to ask, what in my life may need care, love, and my attention, needs that compassionate ear, that compassionate witnesser. What support do I desire to guide me now? So these are like awakening questions that outer can help us ask ourselves. How can I become my biggest advocate and nurturer? How can I let go of the outside world being this for me? So knowing that I'm 100% responsibility for answering these calls, the wake up calls, answering, kind of getting curious about what's in them for me, and taking responsibility, hiring that therapist, hiring that coach, getting that book, creating the conversation, joining the conversation, whatever it is. How can I let go of anything on the outside having to do that for myself? Asking yourself if you're open to new guidance and sources of information. I'm a big believer that anytime we put any of these questions out to the universe, it's echoing, it's reverberating, it's vibrating out there, and the answers will be on the way to you. what practices continue to work for me and what practices need to go, or what am I doing in my life that's not serving me any longer. And that might be a habit, that could be not getting enough sleep. It could be hanging on to smoking. It could be gossiping too much, whatever it is. We all know. I mean, wake up calls do come in different forms, but I think sometimes we just know. Our intuition is like, geez, like I knew for a long time that that was there for me to kind of get curious about and not have it part of my experience anymore. And wake up calls can make us look at areas of our life where you may be reaching completion. Can be for a job or a relationship. Those are bigger. And that leads me to that, earlier when I was saying, I might not know the answer now, but I'm willing to be with myself on this journey with compassion and as much present a moment awareness as I can to come to the answer. But where this whole conversation leads me is this truth that the universe is here to support you and sends you support constantly. And it's something that most of us were not conditioned to know or believe. So it can be a bit out there, this idea that the universe is here to support us as both a concept and a practice. But if we are, and this is where I come from, if we were on a soul's journey in this lifetime, that you are not just this human body, that you have a soul, a spirit. And if you're on that soul's journey in this lifetime, then we know that we're here to grow and learn as humans in this human form. And everything is here for our growth and transformation. A lot of people say that they have gotten whispers from the universe before that bigger wake up call. And I feel like I had some of those in my health journey for sure. And they've been coming to me a lot this summer as I was calling the summer my sacred summer, and I really cleared more space for myself. And when I cleared more space for myself, more answers, not answers like, oh, here's the answer for you, but more information, I should say, came to me. So I call those whispers. I've heard them called different names, but they're more subtle than that big wake up call. And I think that they're here for us in order for us to grow and learn every day. And so the more we wake up to this truth that the universe is here to support us, and we were given the gift of intuition that's coming from within us, I always say, coupled with doing the emotional integration of past experiences. But these whispers are here. So we don't have to wait for the big thing to come in order to begin to awaken. And the more awake we become to the whispers in our life and the, wow, that's happening. Oh, I see that sign. Oh, this book was dropped in my lap. Oh, I chose that movie. Oh, this person called me for this conversation. They're all there. And if we can stop being so busy and pause, we start to collect the data that's coming to us, that's here for our soul's awakening. And I have gone through a big awakener, and that did lead me to even sitting in this chair today recording this podcast, which is great, but it's there for us. And let's talk about them. Let's get curious about them and bring it home. Bring it to your home, your inside. You're deciphering, you're pulling in the information as to where you're going. So yeah, these whispers can look like synchronicities and messages. And I have to take a little step and say, I had a neat one come to me the other day. And I read about this Buddhist practice called the bodhicitta. I almost said bodhicitta. It was called the bodhicitta. And I'm just going to say it in its simplest form of how I understood it. So it was a Friday afternoon, and I was having a nice day of more relaxing than usual. And I was reading a book, and I believe it was Pema Chodron's When Things Fall Apart. And a friend had recently given it to me for my birthday. And so I was sort of luxuriating reading the text and the book and this work of art. And she talks about the bodhicitta, which I understood as not walling ourselves off from the suffering and struggling in the world, and breathing, having a practice of breathing in the suffering and then breathing out compassion to whatever group or individual. So it's a way to, I feel like, process and have a process to take in the suffering and breathe out the compassion for the world that we want to both create, experience, and see. So I just learned about this. I was sort of excited about it. And it was late afternoon, and I had my air conditioning whole thing being replaced on Friday. And my daughter said, "Mom, there's a little boy in the front yard." And he had run into my yard and collapsed in my yard, which is so crazy. And he had been running from somewhere in the community, and he collapsed on my front porch and or my front yard. And the air conditioning guys were tending to him, and they were calling the police. And my daughter said, "Mom, come out and see this." And or be with this. And the little boy was distraught. And it turned out he had run away. He was saying that he um, had experienced someone trying to kidnap him, and a lot of things were coming from the little boy. But it turned out that he had run away from our local foster home and was landed, I will just leave it at that, on my front porch in like a very heightened state. And um he was taken and taken care of, and it was quickly deduced that he had run away. But I couldn't help but think, like, oh my gosh, Maureen, you just read this bodhicitta, and then this young boy, in need of so much compassion and understanding, shows up on your front porch. I mean, it was like, wow. So the universe, an old version of me, would be like, "Oh, that's a cool book, put it down. What a concept." But I could see that the universe gave it to me right there to awaken something in me, and then actually use this for this young soul. And so that kind of blew me away. But I think the more that we're awake, and someone said it on that Mystical Sisterhood page, I had said something like, "Oh my gosh, like, I can't believe this happened." And she said, and if she's listening, she knows who she is. She said, "Oh, I expect those synchronicities more than I don't." And when we start to lean in and, treat every day as this wake up call, and we're listening deeply and intently and with intention, we begin to see that so much is here for us. And, you know, I want to say that for me, that I at one point was partly asleep to the signs. But now I know that these are all occurring in my daily life and right in front of my eyes to guide me to my answers and my truth. So I want to say too that I think that the whisperings, I think we do know, but so much in our lives we suppress, or we numb out, or we don't fully allow ourselves to come into the conversation. And so this is an invitation to remind each other of this magic, the truth. The information is plentiful and abundant, and that you are invited to tune into it as much as you can. Take nothing for granted. And it's all here for you to plant the seeds, nourish your soul, and grow. And the conversations are here for you. I try to bring these conversations forth in the podcast. I am realizing that part of what I like to do here is bring in conversations that feel innovative, that feel like you have one walk away of one question that touched your soul, that it helps you be in closer conversation with yourself, with your community, with your intimate partners, and with the universe. And so I see that all happening. And I will put out the invitation for you that these are the kind of conversations that we're having in the Mystical Sisterhood membership. And by going to mysticalsisterhood.com, you can find out more information. You can always email me at hello@maureenspielman.com. But I want to be in conversation with you to find out what's important in your life. And if you've had big wake up calls, if you listen to the daily whispers and information that it's right there for you, learning your experience, engaging with you. I think being side by side in this sisterhood is super important for all of us. So I see you changing and growing, and I say the more the merrier. So think about joining us in the membership. I'd love to have you. And we meet once live weekly. There are many resources for you. There's a foundational course, all for a monthly investment. And it's just a great place to be having conversation and growing what we want to grow. So that's there for you. And as always, I give you the biggest thank you from my heart for listening today, as long as you lasted. If you lasted to this point, amazing. And yeah, I just see you and I hear you, and I love connecting with you. If you have any thoughts about the podcast or things that you want to hear about, you can email me as well at hello@maureenspielman.com. I will see you in the next episode, and have a great rest of the week. Thanks for listening to this episode of Mystical Sisterhood. To learn more about my one-on-one coaching programs or join the Mystical Sisterhood membership, visit maureenspielman.com or mysticalsisterhood.com. Thanks so much. I'll see you in the next episode.